The rich aroma of espresso intertwined with the subtle sweetness of fresh pastries, filling the air with warmth. The afternoon lull stretched on, longer than usual, as the once lively chatter in the cafe faded into a quiet murmur. For Dinah, the shift felt never-ending, each tick of the clock dragging slower, each clink of cutlery echoing louder. She moved through the motions, taking orders, delivering trays, offering polite smiles. It was just another routine day, nothing out of the ordinary. But when Barron Trump walked in, she had no idea that by the time he left, a simple note and a tip would bring her to tears and spark a conversation across the nation. It was just another aching reminder that she had been on her feet for hours. Wiping down the last table by the window, Dinah glanced at her phone. Just one more hour. Rent was due in 2 days, her phone bill remained unpaid, and the hospital fees for her mother still loomed over her like a shadow. Tips had been dismal, mostly spare change tossed onto tables by distracted customers who never looked up from their screens. She exhaled, tightened her ponytail, and grabbed her order pad. Her manager, an older woman with weary eyes, cast her a glance that silently said, "Hang in there." But Dinah was already moving on autopilot. Then the soft chime of the bell above the door jolted her back to the present. A young man stepped inside, tall, lean, dressed in a simple shirt and slacks that somehow made him look effortlessly polished. Behind him, two men followed closely, their presence subtle yet unmistakable. They moved with quiet precision, their sharp eyes scanning every corner of the room. This cafe was no hotspot for high-profile visitors. It was the kind of place where people came for a moment of solitude, not celebrity sightings. And yet here he was, with what appeared to be security. For a brief moment, Dinah froze, her pen hovering above the pad. But professionalism took over, and she made her way toward the far corner, where the young man had settled. "Good afternoon," Dinah said, forcing her best smile. "Can I get you something to start?" He looked up, and for a split second, she nearly lost track of what she was supposed to say. His face was striking, sharp yet composed. But more than that, there was something undeniably familiar about him. His features, the quiet confidence in his expression. Then it clicked. Barron Trump. She had seen his face countless times on the news over the years, the son of the former president. She felt her heartbeat quicken, but instinct took over. Stay calm, stay professional. This was just another customer, no more, no less. "I'll just have a cappuccino and maybe one of those croissants," Barron said, his voice soft, polite, yet reserved. "Absolutely. Anything else?" He gave a slight shake of his head. "That'll be perfect, thank you." His words were simple, but there was something in his tone, kindness perhaps, or just a quiet sincerity that caught her off guard. She quickly scribbled the order, turned toward the counter, and took a steadying breath, trying to shake off the unexpected flutter in her chest. She wasn't sure if it was nerves or sheer exhaustion, but something about this moment lingered in her mind. As Dinah prepared the coffee, she found herself glancing back toward the corner table, unable to shake the feeling that this simple exchange held more weight than it should. Little did she know this brief interaction was about to upend not just her day, but possibly her entire week. The cappuccino machine let out a sharp hiss as she frothed the milk, her hands moving with practiced precision. Steady, deliberate, anything to drown out the restless energy coiling in her stomach. Why am I acting like this? She wondered. Barron Trump of all people. Her eyes flickered back to the table. He sat in quiet stillness, his posture straight yet unforced. Unlike most patrons, he wasn't scrolling through a phone or tapping away on a laptop. Instead, he simply gazed out the window, watching the world outside with an expression that hinted at something distant, something unspoken. Every now and then, he took a slow sip of water from the glass she had left earlier. By the time the cappuccino and croissant were ready, Dinah had steadied herself. The moment her manager's eyes landed on the number, she let out a low whistle. "No way! Who left this?" Dinah swallowed, her voice softer now. "Corner table." Her manager blinked. "That was Barron Trump?" "The Barron Trump? Are you serious?" "Yeah," Dinah said, pulling the note from her pocket. "But it's not just the money." She handed it over carefully, as though it were something fragile, something that might crumble if she wasn't gentle enough. Her manager took it, eyes scanning the words. For the first time in months, Dinah saw a softness in her boss's expression. Something rare, something real. Wow, her manager whispered, handing the note back. That's, that's something else. It really is, Dinah agreed, folding the note again like it was a piece of treasure. I don't even know why he wrote it. I didn't do anything special. Her manager looked at her for a long moment, as if seeing her in a way she never had before. Sometimes people just know, Dinah. They can see what you're going through, even if you think you're hiding it, her manager said gently. You're here every day, working your tail off, always kind to customers, even the ones who don't deserve it. Maybe he saw that. Dinah swallowed hard. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear those words. For months she had been treading water, pushing through double shifts just to keep a roof over her head, skipping meals so she could afford her mother's prescriptions. She had smiled through exhaustion, stayed patient even when the world felt unbearably heavy. She had been kind because, in the end, it was the one thing she had left, the one part of herself she refused to let the world take away. And somehow, he had seen that. As the minutes passed, a strange buzz filled the cafe. By the pastry display, a couple of co-workers whispered to each other, occasionally glancing toward the corner table where Barron had sat. News traveled fast, and it wasn't long before one of the baristas approached her, eyes wide with curiosity. You served him, didn't you? The girl asked, her voice teetering between excitement and disbelief. What did he say? Was he nice? Dinah managed a small smile. Yeah, he was really nice. Man, I'd freak out, the barista laughed. That's so crazy. Dinah didn't say anything more. She just tucked the note deeper into her pocket, feeling the weight of it against her heart. She didn't want to explain the note or the tip. Somehow, sharing it felt like taking something sacred and putting it on display. For now, it was hers alone. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Every interaction felt lighter somehow. Every table she cleared a little easier. The exhaustion was still there. The weight of life's struggles unchanged. But something about today made it all feel a little less heavy. When she finally pulled off her apron at the end of the day, the folded note remained tucked safely in her pocket. As Dinah made her way to the subway station, she found herself pulling it out once more, her fingers tracing the ink on the receipt. My family has been where you are. Stay strong, brighter days are coming. She read it again, slower this time, letting the words settle deep into her chest, and for the first time in a long while she believed them. She whispered the sentence under her breath, as though saying it aloud might make it real. He didn't have to write that, she thought. He didn't have to care. But he did, and somehow that meant everything. As the train rumbled through the tunnels, Dinah closed her eyes, allowing herself just for a moment to believe. To believe that maybe, just maybe, things would get better. But what she didn't know was that this quiet moment would soon ripple far beyond her own world. The note wouldn't stay a secret for long. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight barely peeked through the dusty window of her tiny apartment, everything was about to change. When her phone buzzed on the nightstand, Dinah groaned, rolling over to check the screen. Dozens of notifications flooded her lock screen, lighting up her phone like a beacon. Why is everyone texting me? She mumbled, squinting at the messages. Girl, is this you? You're famous. Is this real? Her thumb hovered over one message that contained a link. She tapped it, and a screenshot of a headline from the Daily Post filled her screen. Barron Trump leaves Waitress, a touching note, and a huge tip. Internet reacts. Dinah shot upright, her heart hammering in her chest. With shaky fingers, she clicked the link, eyes scanning the article. It told the story word for word. A struggling waitress, an unexpected guest, a note full of empathy, and a tip that seemed to have changed her life. Dinah's breath caught as she stared at the article. Attached was a photo, her note, the very words Barron had written, his neat handwriting now plastered across the internet for the world to see. Her hands trembled as she scrolled, her mind racing. How did this happen? She opened another message from a coworker. The guy at table 5 yesterday. Someone must have seen the note and snapped a picture. It's everywhere now. Her heart dropped. Everywhere. With a growing sense of unease, she flipped through her social media accounts. And there it was, Post after post, comment after comment. The world had seen it. The world was talking about it. And suddenly, this moment that had felt so private, so personal, was no longer hers alone. On Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the note had gone viral. Hundreds of comments flooded in, each one adding to the whirlwind spinning around her name. This is what the world needs more of. Barron Trump seems like such a kind soul. I don't care what anyone says. This is beautiful. Wait, what about the waitress? I hope she's okay. The more Dinah read, the more overwhelmed she felt. Strangers were dissecting her story, her life, without knowing a single thing about her. Some people praised Barron, others debated his intentions, and then there were those who wondered about her, who she was, what she must be feeling, whether she even wanted all this attention. She exhaled shakily, dropping the phone onto her bed and burying her face in her hands. "What do I do now?" she whispered to herself. From the next room, the sound of her mother's cough echoed, a stark reminder that no matter how much the world was talking about her, her reality hadn't changed. Not yet. Pulling Dinah back to reality, her mother's cough was a reminder of everything that still weighed on her. She couldn't afford to lose herself in this. Not with rent due, hospital bills piling up, and groceries to buy. Viral or not, life didn't pause. Even as she grabbed her bag and hurried off to work, the pit in her stomach lingered. She wasn't ready for her story to belong to the world. The cafe felt different that day. The moment she stepped through the door, she felt it. Eyes on her. Her co-workers greeted her with smiles that carried something new. Pride, maybe, or quiet admiration. A few regulars glanced up from their coffee cups, their gazes lingering just a little too long, as if trying to confirm that she was the waitress from the story, from the article, from everywhere. Her manager greeted her with a wide grin. "You're a local hero now," she teased. "I don't feel like one," Dinah muttered. "You should." Her manager placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "What happened yesterday was special. Not everyone gets to be part of something like that." The words were meant to comfort her, but instead they made her feel exposed. She wasn't special. She was just a waitress doing her job, trying to get through another day. And Barron Trump, he hadn't done it for attention. She knew that much. As she tied her apron and stepped onto the floor, she braced herself. Because today, everything had changed. Dinah felt the weight of the world's eyes, even if they weren't physically there. Every interaction carried an unspoken curiosity. Customers stealing glances, co-workers nudging each other, whispers about that nice young man or what he wrote to you. She forced a smile each time, nodding politely, but inside she just wanted to disappear. By lunchtime, the quiet hum of speculation turned into something much bigger. A news crew had parked outside the cafe. Cameras, microphones, the full spectacle. "Seriously?" Dinah groaned, peering through the window as reporters lingered near the entrance, deep in conversation with her manager. Her stomach clenched as one of them suddenly turned and caught her eye and gave her a polite wave. "You're the talk of the town," her coworker teased. "Lucky me," Dinah muttered under her breath, ducking behind the counter as if that could shield her from the world outside. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through the latest headlines. The comments flooded in faster than she could process. "That note probably saved her life. This is a lesson in kindness. Small gestures mean everything. More stories like this, please." Somewhere beneath the swirling chaos, Dinah felt the faintest flicker of something unexpected. Hope. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about kindness, about people, about the way one small moment could remind the world that goodness still existed. Remembering that small acts could still make a big difference. But Dinah still had one more decision to make, one that would determine how her story ended. By the time her shift was over, the cafe felt smaller than ever, suffocating under the weight of all the attention. The walls that had once been her daily refuge now closed in on her, heavy with whispers and curious stares. She ducked out the back door, slipping away unnoticed, avoiding the news crew still camped outside. The moment her sneakers hit the pavement, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, as if shaking off the weight of the invisible eyes still following her. The walk home was quiet, too quiet. The streets, so familiar just yesterday, now felt strangely foreign, as if the world had tilted slightly out of place, recognizable, yet different in a way she couldn't quite name. Dinah clutched her bag tightly, the note still tucked safely inside, as if holding on to it might keep the world from closing in. Her phone buzzed. Another message. Dinah, they want you on TV. Morning show. Call me. It was her manager. She stopped in her tracks, feet planted firmly on the sidewalk. The idea made her skin crawl. Go on television? Tell her story? Number that wasn't her. She didn't want her face plastered across screens, dissected by strangers. But then, a small voice whispered in the back of her mind. Wouldn't it be nice to explain? To tell the world that this wasn't about money or fame, that kindness, real kindness, still mattered. Dinah stared at her phone for a long moment, heart pounding. Then without another thought, she shoved it back into her bag and kept walking. Her answer would have to wait. At home, Dinah found her mother nestled in her recliner, flipping through television channels like any other evening. But then, a familiar voice filled the room. A simple note left by Barron for a hard-working waitress is melting hearts across the country. Dinah froze in the doorway. On the screen, a blurred photo of the receipt appeared. Her note, the one she had folded and tucked away like a secret. Beneath it, the bold headline read, "A quiet act of generosity sparks national conversation." Her mother looked up, coughing softly. Her tired eyes met Dinah's, filled with something unreadable. That's you, isn't it? Dinah sighed, feeling the weight of it all settle onto her shoulders. She dropped her bag onto the floor, not sure if she had the energy to answer. Yeah, Mom, that's me, Dinah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother's gaze softened as she patted the empty space beside her. Sit with me, she said. Dinah hesitated, then sank onto the couch, folding her arms tightly across her chest. It's a good thing, you know, her mother continued. People need stories like this. I didn't ask for it, Dinah muttered, staring at the floor. Sometimes the good things find you when you're not looking for them, her mom replied gently. She reached over, squeezing Dinah's hand with warmth and understanding. What he wrote, that was special, and people are talking about it because they need to believe kindness still exists in the world. She gave Dinah's hand another squeeze. You're part of that now. Dinah swallowed hard, the weight of it pressing into her chest. It feels too big for me, Mom. Like I don't deserve it, Dinah whispered. Her mom shook her head slowly. Don't say that. You work hard every single day to keep us afloat. You're kind to people even when you're exhausted. That's who you are, Dinah. And someone saw it. Someone decided to remind you that you matter. Dinah's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she didn't fight them. Her mom was right. This wasn't just about her, the note, the tip. It was about something bigger. It was about hope, about proving that small gestures still had power, that kindness still carried weight in a world that often felt too harsh, too fast, too indifferent. That night, as Dinah lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she knew one thing for certain. This moment, no matter how overwhelming, had changed something inside her. Her phone buzzed once more. She didn't need to check it to know what it was. More people, more questions, more noise. The world was still talking, but beneath it all, tucked safely under her pillow, was the note. A tangible reminder that someone had seen her, someone unexpected. And for the first time in a long while, Dinah didn't feel invisible. The next morning, she made a choice. She picked up her phone and called her manager. Tell the morning show I'll do it, she said quietly. On the other end, there was a beat of silence before her manager nearly dropped the phone. Are you sure? Yes, Dinah said, steady this time. But I'm not going to talk about the money. I want to talk about the note, about kindness, that's all. The interview was simple. Dinah sat on the couch, hands folded nervously in her lap, as the host leaned forward, offering a warm smile. Dinah, you've been in the spotlight these past few days because of something very unexpected. A note and a tip from Barron. Can you tell us how it felt when you first read it? She paused, choosing her words carefully. Honestly, it caught me off guard, she admitted. It wasn't about the money. It was what he wrote. I've been going through a tough time, and those words meant more than I can explain. The host nodded, eyes filled with genuine curiosity. The note said, your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. My family has been where you are. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming. The host gave a thoughtful nod. What do you think he meant by that? Dinah glanced at the camera, and for the first time, she wasn't just answering the host. She was speaking to everyone watching. I think he meant that we all go through struggles, she said, her voice steady. No matter who we are, no matter what family we come from. And sometimes when you're at your lowest, the smallest act of kindness can change everything. It reminds you that someone sees you and that you're not alone. The studio fell silent for a beat, the weight of Dinah's words hanging in the air. The host smiled warmly. That's a beautiful message, Dinah. Is there anything you'd like to say to Barron if he's watching? Dinah felt her voice waver slightly, but she smiled. Just thank you. Not for the money, but for seeing me, for reminding me to hold on to hope. You made more of a difference than you know. When the interview aired, Dinah didn't check her phone. She didn't look at the comments or the headlines. Instead, the next morning, she tied her apron, stepped onto the cafe floor, and went back to work. Apron tied snugly, a little lighter on her feet, Dinah stepped onto the cafe floor. The place was busier than ever, but the energy felt different. Customers smiled at her, not because they knew her story, but because she felt seen. People left kind notes scribbled on napkins, tipped just a little extra, or simply said thank you with a sincerity that hadn't been there before. And tucked safely inside her wallet, where it would stay for years to come, was Barron's note. A quiet reminder that small gestures matter, that you never know how much hope a few words can bring, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change someone's life. Maybe it's a kind word, a helping hand, or just letting someone know they matter. Who can you lift up today? Remember, brighter days are coming for all of us. Sometimes we just need a reminder.